Absolutely. Well, maybe not finding an answers, but of course, providing more clarification and, giving us more insights into what we do not already know about the achievement of former President Muhammadu Buhari, who has now gone the way of mortals. So it's part of our, tributes to the late president. So let me quickly introduce our guest in the studio here, Professor Ken Ife, who is a development economist, and I must really appreciate him, especially whenever we call upon you. You do not hesitate to, answer our call at whatever time. Thank you very much,
Always
Professor
a pleasure
Ike.
for me.
NTA is proud of you, and we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Prof, we're glad that you could make it this morning, and what we're looking at is the legacies, the impactful legacies that the late president, they left while he was in the office, and from education to agriculture to economics and all that. You being an economist from a development economist viewpoint, how transformative were the legislative and constitutional reforms under President Buhari's administration, looking at, let's assess the economic impact of some of the executive orders issued under the Buhari's administration?
Quite a few things, to enumerate, quite a lot. But anyway, let me begin with stomach infrastructure. Because all the wisdom begin from what you could put into your ears. So we were having over $12.5 billion deficit on import of food. And if you want to remember Nigeria's agricultural achievement, people say, oh, groundnut pyramid. But under him, we had rice pyramid.
Yeah.
So when he launched that, he said, eat what you produce and produce what you eat. That was credited to him. And he meant it. Because he made sure resources went in, millions and millions of farmers, smallholder farmers, breeded under him. And then there were a multitude of cooperatives organizing them under Uncle Buhari's program. So we created those structures, and then there was a diffusion of resources to those for us to be able to dent the import of rice and maize from about 20-30% dependency to about almost 78%. So we are approaching self-sufficiency, but so that was a remarkable achievement. And then if you say, if we didn't have people dropping dead on the street today, it was actually because that investment was made, and you brought those army of food producers, smallholders into the fray. But it wasn't just that. He also had presidential fertilizer initiative, because we have about 14 fertilizer blending plants. And then, of course, we started working with Morocco and for supply of phosphates. So that was remarkable. So when you now saw millions of bags of fertilizers being given to farmers and all of that, there was a foundation for that. Then on the area of infrastructure, the most remarkable was we spent 20 years on PIA, fighting the foreign companies, multinational companies, to a standstill. Buhari just signed that PIA. He had enough of it, he signed it and brought it into law. And I have to tell you that if this PIA was not signed by him, Dangote would have been in trouble. Look at all the shenanigans. Look at what he's going through. This is the only thing we could hold on to be able to breed sanity into this oil and gas industry. But you have to give it to him. He actually put paid to that struggle, that endless struggle to get PIA signed. But it's not just that. We inherited a situation where government accounts were all over the place. Hundreds of MDAs, we have multiple accounts with central bank, everywhere, commercial bank. He streamlined all that with a treasury single account. And so we now have one account where you can see all the resources belonging to all arms of government. It is not a mean feat, but he had this foundation, and we're all enjoying some of those things that he did. And the argument has now shifted to how much is it that we are paying into the Consolidated Revenue Fund. It wasn't no longer that one ministry or one MDA has 30 bank accounts. And then you actually have your money sitting down with the commercial banks, and you are borrowing from those commercial banks. I mean, you know, honestly, and I'm sorry that nobody ever got jailed for some of those things that happened. Then he brought in with economic recovery and growth plan. And that was to boost diversification. But more importantly, actually, during the COVID-19, he also had economic sustainability plan. And in fact, just as I mentioned COVID-19, when it came, the Western press were saying dead bodies will litter the street of Africa. But they were coming to learn from Nigeria how we fought COVID to a standstill. Buhari called 3 people. He said to Boss Mustafa, go and fight this. And Boss literally left his job. Every day he was on the television with Chukwuka and all those other ministers fighting. He also told Minister for Dr. Ahmed, Finance, and Central Bank Governor, make resources available for this fight. And these 3 people fought like lions and lionesses. And others were coming to learn from Nigeria what we did about COVID-19. And then to cap it up, we now had the economic sustainability plan that actually created a few more resources to enable us to take off those companies that suffered. They will never had those dead bodies on the street, all those stuff that they were mentioning.
Prof, thank you. Let me just, before I just, took a little on this economic aspect that you have raised, some of the issues that I have raised. While Prof was talking, Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu, political scientist and public affairs analyst, walked into our studio. He's also one of our very, dependable, guests. We're very glad that you could join us for this important discussion. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And today I didn't call you Hamisu, so I was very deliberate. Prof, let me come back to you, and I'm glad you are a development economist and you have started, off on that note. In terms of policies, you have talked about several. How the anchor borrowers policy, engineered the rice pyramid, and you talked about the sustainability, initiative, yes, plan that was geared towards, building our economy, which was in recession at the time, COVID and all that. But let us look at all these policies. Anchor borrowers policy, with its own merit, have been, roundly criticized by some people. There were issues and all that. These are policies well thought out, weren't they?
Correct. I mean, I've addressed, CBN retreat with members of the House of Assembly. I've gone through, I've spoken. Look, people are always at liberty to criticize. There are always winners and losers in any event. But I have to tell you this. The 33 trillion naira ways and means printed was not to fund Anchor Borrowers program. It wasn't. It came even after that. Secondly, there was no question that government went to borrow billions of dollars to go and fund Anchor Borrowers program. That was not the case. The case was that these monies were raised and then used, and the banks have brought a lot of the money anyway, because if you don't want to spend the time here to give you the details of what actually happened. But the fact of the matter is that CBN de-risked some of those, and then the banks used some of their money, and there were other monies that were used to bring, and then he just made sure that so eventually they will still have, when you go for millions and millions of people and put resources in their hands, there will always be non-performing loans and all kinds of things, but the end justifies the means. We had rice pyramid. We had massive injection of resources that actually hit the ground. Because remember, our biggest problem, even the agriculture people right now will tell you, our biggest problem is last mile, how to deliver government legacies to the last mile. Government shares things, shares bronze money, but does it actually hit the last mile? That is what the challenge that we always had. So that is part of it. But there is another thing too. He actually brought commercialized NNPC as a result of the PIA. So to remove and then part of the thing about getting certain NNPC free was he also set up Murphy, Ministry of Finance Incorporated, and I was involved with that, to the point that he even made me a member of the Presidential Governing Council of Ministry of Finance Incorporated. We worked very hard to ensure that this organization can now manage all these assets that we are going to be left behind when you are commercializing an MPC. Do you understand? And we have seen the mileage in some of those things that he did.
Okay, Prof. Maybe we just pause you there so that we can take comments from other guests. While the Prof was speaking, we had Madam Pauline Tallen, politician, former Minister of Women Affairs, also come in to join in this program. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, and good morning, Nigerians.
Good to have you join us this morning.
Thank
okay, while we'll just wait for you to relax and, take your breath, and we'll now bring in Dr. Hamisu, who is a political analyst and public affairs analyst. You've heard a lot of things that have been said about the former president, the legacy that he left, and there have been some issues where people criticize probably that he was probably slow in responding to some, national issues and, other things like that. But from your own perspective, tell us Buhari's approach, his approach to governance, especially what has been said in some quarters that he rewrote how governance works in Nigeria.
Well, let me start from the very beginning. I think President Muhammadu Buhari has the misfortune always to be called to salvage Nigeria when all hope is lost. That was what happened in 1983. Coming to 2015, it came in at the point that if I was the president of Nigeria, where to start from would be most difficult with the challenges on ground. So I think his approach to governance is always dictated by the problems he is to address. So when he came in 2015, I think the most basic thing that every country should do, we're not doing it. About 27 states could not pay a salary. As at the time he came in, that was how bad it was. As civil servants or public servants, once it is started, you know that you have additional 10 days to go before you get your salary. And monies were being borrowed for consumption purposes to pay salaries, not to fund infrastructure or anything. So where it started from was, how could he be able to gather some funds to be able to address the most basic problems? So nothing was even in the coffers. And that was the question he was asking, where's the money? And people were joking about the whole thing. But it was a serious thing. So it started without ministers, just to conserve resources. Even the presidential motorcade, his own official vehicle, he could not change it. So this is to tell you the kind of person he is, that he places public interest over and above private interest. And if there is anything that has destroyed Nigeria today, is misalignment of interest. The pursuit of private interest in public spaces that we are calling corruption, where people go into government, with a mindset, public-private partnership. And what do I mean by that? The kind of resources they need to fund their lifestyle is not always available to them. So once they get into government, they see it as an opportunity to enjoy things that ordinarily they cannot pay for. So you can't charge President Muhammadu Buhari with this very particular flaw in governance that we are always witnessing in Nigeria. So it was methodological in the sense that he tackled issues based on what he thinks is the right thing to do. Also, for instance, like the issue of framework to govern this country. So when he came, what he did was, the transition committee, by the time they hand over the notes to him, he took his time to go through, and people were criticizing him. No ministers. He said, what are the ministers coming to do in the first place? And then we do not have resources to start paying them, buying new vehicles for them, and so on and so forth. So he needed to conserve these resources. And that was what was responsible for his not appointing ministers from the very beginning. Not because he wants to do the job alone. He knows he cannot do the job alone. But again, he went further to give us one of the most important things that I've ever seen in the history of this country. Apart from the development plans of the 1970s, which is the economic recovery and growth plan that Prof mentioned, if you study that very particular document, you come to realize that in terms of planning in this country, looking at the metrics, looking at the deliverables, you come to understand the fact that a lot of work has gone into it. And then as a corollary, there was the ease of doing business, which is to augment the economic recovery and growth plan. And what was all of this trying to achieve? So, for instance, if it takes the same amount of speed to move our goods, let's say from Mombasa to the Kenyan capital, right? Say 10 hours.
Okay.
In Nigeria, it will take 15 hours because our infrastructure, especially roads, were bad. And that is when President Muhammadu Buhari, together with his team, came up with Sukuk funding. And this Sukuk funding, wherever you go in Nigeria, you will see signposts that is telling you Sukuk, 100 kilometers. Now, the interconnectivity, like the Second Niger Bridge, for instance, it has been in the working since I was not even born. But he was the only person that was able to deliver it. President Goodluck Jonathan tried and did everything he could. I think it was even the design that was able to be achieved under his regime. But when President Muhammadu Buhari came, before you could say Jack, he was able to deliver that very particular bridge that has been lingering for so many years. Now, if you take Bodo-Boni corridor, the people around that corridor, they transport their goods on the ocean. It was a very difficult terrain. But because he's a man that places public interest over personal interest, he delivered that road before you could say Jack, or way to bridge. I'm just telling you in terms of interconnectivity, in terms of laying foundation for infrastructure. If you're traveling between Niger State and Kwara State on your way to Lagos, Mokwa was a dead zone. And you find trucks falling off the track. And what did he do? Now, he was able to, that section of the road that was the weakest link, he was able to do. So I can go on and on and on in terms of economic connectivity. And coming to agriculture and the Aquaboras program, it is a well-thought-out program. Now, farmers are complaining. We're not having support. And what did he do? Okay, President Jonathan laid the foundation in terms of the concept of Aquaboras program. But he came, reviewed it, and then gave it all the necessary foundation to move. And it was a support to a whole value chain. And as Prof said, that very particular thinking of, okay, let us have food sufficiency, let us not be importing rice, because if we are importing rice as a staple that we are eating, then we are creating jobs for the people of Laos, for the people of India, for the people of any country that we are, including beans that we're importing from Burkina Faso. We stop all of those, and then we're able, for the first time, to see development in that sector from the farmers that are farming to agro-allied product that is supporting the subsector, to millers who are the off-takers, because it is designed, you produce from your farm, then that is why they say anchor borrowers. Then you have people that are milling. Then you people go into agreement before you even farm, which means there is a market for that. Then to the retailers, then to the fertilizer blending plant you're talking about. So just one item was able to produce multiply effect to the extent that we were able to have rice sufficiency. And we are thinking what happened is, assuming we were importing rice when COVID struck, what will happen?
Let's just, it's better imagined. Dr. Hamilton, it's better imagined. Thank you. And, you know, everybody, not just today, you know, since Monday, we've been talking about, you know, legacies of the former president. So many things that we didn't even know, we didn't even realize. One would have thought that by now it would have been El Dorado for Nigeria, you know, but it's not. So I'd like to bring in Dame Pauline Talon, and I'm glad you could make it. I've been putting calls across to you. You were in Dara yesterday, and I'll just start by asking you, what emotions did the funeral rites instill in you? What kind of emotions? And in the tribute that followed, that poured, we heard the tribute. What were the main legacies, that you could pick from those tributes?
Thank you very much, Claire, and good morning, everyone. Yesterday was one of the darkest days in history as we witnessed the putting to rest of our dear president, father and mentor, late President Muhammadu Buhari. We were moved with emotions, and it came so sudden. His death was another big surprise, and it was part of who he is, because he is a man full of unassuming. He's unassuming in many ways. Late President Muhammadu Buhari is a phenomenon. He is a true Nigerian elder statesman, a true patriot, a man who loves Nigeria with all his heart, a man who loves women and children. I remember in the wake of the COVID-19 and the lockdown, I ran to him and cried that sexual gender-based violence was becoming so prominent. It was so eminent that a lot of women and children were abused because of the lockdown. And he immediately responded. And that same day I presented the matter in council, he declared a state of emergency on gender-based violence, and he gave us all the support to fight gender-based violence in order to protect women and children. He was a family man, a very committed man who placed family values first. He was a true father, a man who a lot of people think look at Buhari as a very hard soldier, but when you work closely with him, the other side of him will amaze you and surprise you. I was going to
ask you what you meant by a true father, because a father is a father.
Yes.
Yes. What is a true father in this respect?
He is very homely. He has time when he's home to play with his grandchildren, with his children. If we come in and he sees us, he takes time to crack jokes and make everyone feel relaxed. I remember one evening he came in, he was passing to his parlor. We were in the First Lady's parlor. He turned and looked at us. I secreted. I said, So Nunku, he said, Madam Minister, anytime I on NTA, I saw your flag. He describes this, my head tie, my flag. And we all laughed. This is nobody thinks of Buhari in that aspect, because we just look at him as a hard soldier who doesn't smile, who doesn't. But when you meet him.
I had a glimpse of that myself in Dara, and I requested to have a handshake.
Yes.
A handshake.
Yes.
And he said, well, I hope your spouse will not be jealous.
That's it. He is full of jokes, and he is that homely, fatherly figure that will always make you relax, even when there's tension.
But the dignitaries,
yes,
like the dignitaries from ECOWAS, Niger, the SADC King, what was the content of their tribute?
It was amazing. You could see men weeping. Men weeping. Our former vice president, you could see how he wept. All of us, everybody was broken.
It was quite an emotional
scene, and a
moment.
very, very emotional scene.
Yeah, it was.
That you could see that the wall has broken. The father figure we look up to is no more. And all that we can pray to Almighty God is that God will grant him mercy and eternal rest. And that was why most of us insisted that that last respect of seeing that he's laid to rest will be there, not just to sit back and watch it on TV.
Okay. Yes, Madam, you played a major role in his administration as one of the ministers, and especially in implementing the Nigerian for Women project. How impactful would you say that project was?
The Nigerian for Women project is one of the empowerment program that has impacted so much on the life of Nigerian women. And this we were able to implement under his administration. In addition to that, we were also able to implement the program, that is Women Economic Empowerment Program. That is to institutionalize and encourage and support women, because economic empowerment is the main problem that affects women. If a woman is empowered, she can do everything to support her family. She can stand on her own. She wouldn't be badly abused, because you are abused because you depend entirely on a man. But when a woman is independent, she's economically empowered, the home will be better off for it, because once a woman is empowered, it's not just for herself. She empowers the entire family. The husband will feed well, the children will be well cared for, she'll ensure that children go to school, everything. And the society starts from the home. Once the home is in peace and things go well at home, the community will be better off for it, the society will be better off for it, and Nigeria will be better off for it, until we get it and think of getting it right through the family values. When we correct and address issues affecting women and children, then we'll be able to address most of the societal problems that affects us, because the miscreants grew up from a home.
You know, before we come back... Yes.
All the issues, when you talk of fighting corruption, it starts from the home.
Before we come back to Prof, you were a serving member of the, cabinet.
Sure.
People have described his style of governance as, systemic. He was a systems person. Once he appoints you, he has faith in you, he has trust and confidence in you to deliver. He doesn't interfere with you. Can you share that with us? And how is it that that worked with some of his appointees, but it didn't work with others?
That's very true. Once President Muhammadu Buhari appoints you and gives you the mandate to handle a particular assignment, he never interferes. He never interferes. For one day, he has never interfered or asked anybody to come and do, or ask me to do anything for anybody. No. He allows you to do your work, and this is common with all of us. It's not just me. Any member of his cabinet can testify to this. So it is a man that once he trusts you, he allows you a free hand to operate. But when you come with a problem, he attends to it.
Okay.
I remember during the COVID-19 again, when there was, during the lockdown, and a lot of people couldn't feed well, I remember the parents of the Chibok girls. I ran to him. I said, there's need for us to support these families that are in a very disadvantaged area. They need support because some of them had children and they left it with their parents. Some of them, those that, the first batch that were recovered, were in the American university, and their children were with the parents. So immediately he responded. He said, what do I want us to do? I said, I need to reach out to the families, take some palliatives, support them with some economic empowerment for the mothers to be able to. He said, can you go to Chibok? Are you not afraid? I said, I'm not afraid, Mr. President. I'm ready to go. He sat back quietly. He was worried for my life. He was worried that I was taking that big risk. And he quickly directed the Chief of Defense Staff, the Chief of Army Staff, the Chief of Air Staff. He said we should set up a committee. He approved my memo and said a security committee should be put in place to ensure my movement to Chibok and back with full security apparatus. And that was exactly what happened. He gave us the funds. We mobilized, we bought enough food, moved it in trailers through Adamawa State to make that was the closest, the boundary there. And then the security, these are things that I cannot open up and say all. But a helicopter was given to me. We flew, he gave me a plane to fly to Maiduguri. And the governor of Maiduguri, Zulum, I commend that man. He's awesome. He's excellent. Because everything I requested Mr. President to do, Mr. President directed him, like the rebuilding of the school. He did that and invited me to commission. And he transformed the school to look like, even like a modern university, with computers, with everything. This, again, is things that I was able to go to Chibok with the support of Mr. President with full security.
Okay.
A plane and another helicopter that hovered over us while we were in Chibok. They gave me time.
Just to ensure that
Just
you
to ensure
achieved
that
the
I did the objective
of
and I was
providing
secured and brought back. And when I came back, he said, congratulations. He smiled. He said, you moved as a gallant soldier. And he laughed. And we all laughed. He was.
Yeah.
That is to show you how caring and fatherly he could be.
Yeah, madam. Thank you so much. We know that this is really a big moment for you, and we share in all this. We just want to let our viewers know that you can also contribute to this conversation by sending in your questions and comments and whatever on the numbers displayed on your screen via text messages or WhatsApp chats, so that we can, our guests can respond to some of these comments.
Do you have some? I have just one.
Oh, you have one?
Yes, I just have one, but it has no name. Please, when you send your messages, do indicate where you're sending it from, your name and where you're sending it from, because what I have here doesn't have.
You want to read it now?
Yes,
or
it's just a commendation.
Okay.
I said mine is really to appreciate President Chirimbu for according the ex-president state burial and being there personally with his family, cabinet members, and all dignitaries. And I think
okay, I have this one also. This one is from Ismail Seidu Lawal from Sakro, Gwarimpa, Abuja. It says, to be sincere, late President Buhari left a huge legacy to the nation, which will never be forgotten, most especially to his family members. I pray Allah's grants him paradise. So, well, that's it for that. The messages for now. So let's.
Okay. You have a question? Yes, I
bring in
Prof.
Okay, you have a
yes, Prof. Let's look at again the economy when the former president came to office. The exchange rate. People will always talk about the value of the exchange rate. When Jonathan Wodstai was going higher, and then it hit 500 during his time, and the economy went into recession a couple of times and all that. And people in comments, of course, people will have their opinions and all that, but comments have come to say, look, the economy during former President Muhammadu Buhari wasn't as rosy as people are making it. How would you respond to that? And can you substantiate your evaluation for us?
You begin from debt. He was there for 8 years. When he entered office, we were owing 41 trillion naira. After 8 years, we are owing 71 trillion naira. So it's really only about 30 trillion additional debt that we incurred over his 8 years of office. But on the other side of the balance sheet, in his 8 years, he attracted $89.1 billion. What he attracted was outweighed what was borrowed. So the rest of the maths you can do to see how much have we borrowed, So that's the maths you can do, but this is not the stage to do that analysis. Then in terms of the economy, well, it's the same APC government anyway, but he signed off at about 499 something naira to $1. That was when he signed off. And I think now we're about 1,518 or something.
Yeah.
But there are issues around those, very real things that we can discuss to explain what has happened. But anyway. And in terms of exchange rate, it was fairly stable. It dipped, but it was fairly stable over that period, despite the fact that we had 2 recessions. And not that recession, there are stagflations that we had. And there are very, very complicated forms of inflation. Because interest rates and borrowing rates and lending rates, everything that can go wrong went wrong with our economy. That's why it's called stagflation. And upon that, we also had COVID that drained the economy. And let me tell you something about war. Nigeria was in a state of war, even till now. Countries that were in the kind of war Nigeria was facing over this period, and people who went through COVID would have gone to borrow at least $50 billion to fight the war and to deal with. We would have borrowed over $50 billion to fight. How much did Europe spend on Marshall Plan? How much is Israel going to pay now for the thing that the skirmish they had with Iran? $74 billion. We didn't borrow those monies. We had to fund them from inside. Of course, we printed some naira and we are fighting the inflation of it. But anyway, but the fact of the matter, we didn't have to be held hostage to external borrowing of that magnitude to deal with our problems. Okay. So we have to, they are relative. You have to look at some of these things. I can't write off his economic achievement because I was parcel of that. And I was in the government, in policy. Even from the time of Obasanjo through Jonathan, so I have a 360-degree view of what has happened. And I can tell you anytime, he did something good. He laid a solid foundation. Many of the areas that we were able to, in 2 years of President Tinubu's administration, what we have been able to achieve, a lot of them we could achieve in 2 years was because the foundation was laid. And okay, look at what is happening in fuel. Storage, distribution, transportation, the decapitation of NMPs and all of this bringing benefits down to Nigeria is because Buhari supported Dangote to make sure that his dream doesn't fail, and then delivered PIA and got us to get Murphy moving. And look at this, we are now enjoying. What now happened was that Tinubu had the courage to say, I must implement this act.
Let's look at.
So
that's why these things are happening.
Because people say that. I mean, probably because he's highly disciplined and a very frugal, leader, and this actually impacted, his policies decision in one way or the other. What style? I mean, what leadership style would you say actually helped him in achieving all these economic reforms?
Madam has just said that. The leadership style of, once you are convinced of somebody's integrity and competence, let him do the job. And that's what your testimony is. And he did. And I told you when COVID came, he gave marching orders to 3 people. Boss Mustafa, go and sort it out. CBN governor and Madam Minister, you two get resources necessary. And he stayed back and they did their work. That is remarkable. What kind of leadership? What else do you want? Is you want every minute you tell him, don't do this, don't do that, then the negative from the president? He said, no. He just let them get on with it. And the next day, they keep bringing memo to him to approve. Memo to him to approve. And he knows that they're staying on course. Nothing makes a minister more confident than he knows that the president has his back.
Okay.
You understand? But I'll tell you something else.
Yeah.
when we, just to tell you the kind of man he is, when we were in a position to sign for AFCTA, the private sector revolted. We didn't know about it. We were not consulted. He stopped the process for 1 year. We had to go around and talk to everybody and consulted with everybody before he now signed that AFCTA. But in the same way, when we went to COP21, Nigeria wasn't prepared. And he gave orders, and they quickly did the framework agreement on climate change, did our COP22, Nigeria was shining. You know, this is when you say you want this done, let people, they do the things that they want them done, not going forward and backwards and this and no. He gets it done.
Some people might you know, have a different opinion about this. Certainly, a systems person is the way to go. But then there were, you know, loopholes that, you know, gave rise to certain issues. But I want you to talk to us about the IPPIS that, you know, the TSA and other, you know, policies that came up, and how that would form a solid foundation for the present administration. Because those were issues, you know, initiatives to fight corruption during his term.
Yeah, what he did was actually, you know, there are two sides of this equation. We always say that there's fiscal dominance over monetary policy. The two sides is getting your house in order. Because, you know, you need to see what happened during him was like what happened to Obasanjo in 2005 when they were trying to collect the debt owed by local government, state government, but they didn't know. Everybody was owing everything. They set up DMO. In 2002, DMO now started collecting this debt. For the first time, Nigeria could see what exactly Nigeria was owing. And then they started publishing it monthly by monthly and all of that, and you have borrowing plan and all that stuff. That was sorted out. And then eventually Obasanjo paid out 18 billion and got forgiveness, all that stuff. He cleared all that. This was the same thing we had when he faced TSA. You have banks. The government, when they look through, they see so much money being held by commercial banks. You know, ministers, and they will give money to bank to give interest, and then they will go and borrow from bank to do the project. What kind of thing is this? I'm not going to get that people don't go to jail. Now, so what he's done was to tidy up that side of the equation, to now say, you streamline that, and then the next phase from that was now collecting money from MDAs, because according to the law, Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007, all these MDAs that are revenue generating should retire 80% of their profit to government, and then they keep 20%. So he was on that battle to get them to start returning. So that was the big battle that we are fighting before the administration now came in. But there is still a big one that is left untouched, which is about why will you borrow hundreds of billions of naira to fight corruption when you actually have a law, Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007, that prevents civil servant or public servant touching 1 naira of government money? That is the area that is still not done, that needs to be addressed. Because you're just wasting money.
Okay, Prof. Because of time, we just have to just interject you there. We have some comments coming here. Let me just read so you can read so that Dr. Amisu can just respond to some of this. This one says, this one is from, it says, good morning. President Muhammadu Buhari was a great man, an officer and a gentleman. May Almighty Allah forgive his shortcomings and grant him eternal rest. My condolences to his family. Adieu, PMB. This one's from Chike. Chike is from Warri, Delta State. It says the large turnout at Daura to pay their respects to the late Muhammadu Buhari, coupled with the emotional displays from dignitaries, speaks volumes about his impact. May God forgive his shortcomings and grant him eternal rest. And this from Cyril JP from Katsina. He says, indeed, Nigeria lost a hero. May God Almighty comfort Nigerians. Amen. Okay,
I'll quickly go through some of the ones I have, and very fast too. This is, again, Stephanie from Lagos. I'm really enjoying today's discussion. May the soul of the deceased to rest in peace. God bless you all. Thank you, and you too. Buhari has done so much for this country. War against indiscipline, war against corruption, eat what you grow what you eat, which made Nigerians to go back to farm, and that led to diversification of Nigerian economy. A selfless leader, a father, may his gentle soul rest in General to Fidels. May Almighty Allah forgive his shortcomings. Fatima Musa Jumaire, I hope I got that correct. Forgive me. Jumare, thank you. Ben Ozo, his political economy of economic nationalism. He closed the border not to punish Nigerians, but to boost domestic economy and agrarian agriculture. Ben Ozo, thank you. Kefas Irame from Maiduguri. President Buhari is one of the best presidents Nigeria produced in terms of his policies and programs that will impact for long. I pray God will grant him eternal peace. Amen. Tribute to the masses leader. May his gentle soul rest in peace. In Jesus' name. Joshua from Makodi, thank you. Good morning. I want to commend the former Minister Paul Ntalen for her loyalty to late President Buhari and his family and standing by them in this time of grief. May God reward her. Abdul Ibrahim from Garki. And in memory of late former President Muhammadu Buhari, may his legacy of unwavering integrity, upcoming youth to strive for excellence and honesty. Let us honor his commitment and let his example guide us in building a brighter future for Nigeria. That's Dr. Mustafa Mohammed Abubakar from FCT. And lastly, from S.I. Madaki from Kuje, may Baba's soul rest in peace. We, the youth of Nigeria, will never forget his transparent and successful End Power program. S.I. Madaki from Kuje, Abuja. I also remember End Power.
And also the not too young to run.
Not too young to run. Trader money. There's so many.
Yes.
So many.
So Dr. Amisu,
Yes.
maybe you should just respond to some of those comments.
And
also look at how you can look at Buhari's focus on system building. Yeah. System building over populist,
Exactly.
Politics.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. You know, when somebody is disciplined and is strong-willed and is shaped by his own understanding of issues and events, working together with people, I think it's one of the things that we are canvassing, because there is some element of discipline in the military. And in the military is systemic. You do your part, I do my part, but there is no any reason why you should delay your own responsibility beyond the hours you're supposed to work. And as such, it has good side and has bad side in the case of Nigeria. Now, as a system person, you believe in the system. You believe everybody should play their role. And then once you understand the fact that giving all the necessary support anybody can deliver, then you allow them to operate their realm as defined by their jobs. And then yours is to support, as them said. But again, it's open to abuse in Nigeria, especially where this issue of public-private partnership is really entrenched, where people have at the back of their mind that I'm going into government, I need to make 2 billion before I leave government. Now, without proper supervision, that used to open rooms for abuse. And I think some persons took advantage of President Muhammadu Buhari in that regard, because he trusted a lot of persons and he gave them all the necessary support they needed to deliver. But what happened? Some of them are still explaining to the authorities in ICPC. So those that left intact were people of integrity that equally believe in the president's vision and they key into it. So you have a situation whereby no matter how good a president is, no matter how disciplined a president is, if the president is not given to checkmating his appointees, especially in Nigeria, then there is a problem. And that is the difference between President Muhammadu Buhari and the present president.
Yes.
Because maybe as a father, as she said, he prefers to bear the entire consequences of those kind of people around him. But you can't rule that out. And eventually, we're saying that no matter what, Buhari exited with his integrity.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'm going to ask you, if you may, madam, in 60 seconds, just two questions in one. One is on gender, and it's on a lighter note. You know, people have taken it and blown it up. You know, when former President Buhari referenced the other kitchen, you know, in relation to his to the other room, in relation to his wife. You know, what gender message was he putting out? And then his inability or his decision not to remove the subsidy. You know, some have given it different interpretation. How do you evaluate those two issues?
Well, the other comment is, I wouldn't want to comment on that because it's a private comment. It's something that has to do with his family, so I leave that.
But it doesn't portray him as someone who is not gender progressive. I mean, yes,
no.
Gender friendly.
No, I decorated him as a gender champion because he supported all gender proposals for women inclusion. He supported anything to do with the upliftment of women and children. He wasn't biased against women being in the forefront of anything. No. He was a man that his response to things, and he, as I said, that aspect of his life that throws in fun, that is what leads to that, making that earlier comment of the other room. But it doesn't portray him as a negative person. Nobody is an angel. People look at, there is no perfect human being in this world. The way I am happy with all the eclogues that are being poured on him and all people, Nigerians remembering all the good things he has done. Nobody is perfect. He is a human being and he has that instinct of humanity in him. And he is not an angel and he cannot be perfect. He has done his very best.
He has done his very best and nobody is
and
an
nobody
angel.
Can fault or condemn him for certain things. But for issues that affect gender, women and children, I know that he was there for us and he was never against women.
He was never antagonistic.
Antagonistic to women or children.
All right. Thank you so much, madam. Unfortunately, we just have to, stop here because we have another topic that we need to, discuss this morning. Just let me say thank you so much, Dame Pauline Talem, politician, former Minister of Women Affairs. Thank you so much for coming this morning. For coming this morning to this program. We appreciate your contribution this morning. Also, we want to thank Professor Ken Ife, a development economist. Thank you so much, Prof.
Thank you.
For always being there. All right. And also, Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu, political scientist and political affairs analyst. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
coming.
having me.
Okay. You want to say... Okay, just in 30 seconds.
Yes. I want to sincerely, what I saw in Dora yesterday, I want to sincerely start by thanking Mr. President, President Tinubu, his wife, the entire cabinet were there to honor the president. Nigerians honored him. The National Assembly were fully there. Both his cabinet and the president cabinet, the overwhelming state burial that was given to my late president is highly commendable. So I want, on behalf of his cabinet, to sincerely thank Mr. President, thank the First Lady, thank all those that were there to support us in giving him this last respect. It was overwhelming, and I appreciate that because
All right.
it's better to celebrate. I wish the president would come back to life to see what happened
Yes,
yesterday.
we are celebrating
But
his
I
passage.
am happy
actually.
that Nigerians are celebrating his
His
passage.
passage. Thank you so much, Ma, for that comment. So we'll take a break now, and when we come back, we'll look at the role of ethical communication in public relations. Stay with us.